Welcome to Built to Last, the podcast where entrepreneurs share real stories about the triumphs and challenges of building enduring success. Hosted by Colby Jardine and Levi Lawrence.
Welcome to our next episode of the Built to Last podcast. I'm really excited about this one. Some of our last guests I've never had the chance to meet, and so we got to meet them for the first time during our conversation, which is really a lot of fun. But this guest I've had a chance to do some meaningful conversations with, and we've shared some meals, we broke some bread, and I'm gonna give him a very uncomfortable quick blurb intro, which I told him I wasn't going to do, because he likes compliments probably just about as much as I do. And then I'm gonna kick it off to you, Colby, because I know you were the original connector. And then, as usual, we're not really going to read the bio, and I'll pass it to you, Martin, to kind of give a little bit more of like how you would describe yourself, and
Perfect.
then we'll take it from there. But my little bio is, I was thinking about this, preparing this for a conversation, and we've had a lot of meaningful conversation time. But what I'm excited to explore is some of the intentional or unintentional decisions, because you are, the word fierce comes out. You're a high performer in more than just one aspect. I work with a lot of people, but you as an entrepreneur, as an operator, as a family member, as a community member, as a life partner, I've seen enough to see that you have a high standard in all of those things. And I know that must come with some lessons learned or sacrifices or things that you don't always see. And we talk about balance as illusionary, and I'm really excited about understanding a little bit more about you, what makes you tick, but also some of the things you've learned to get to that point. But Colby, you brought Martin into our world. Maybe give us a quick context and we'll pass it off.
Yes, pleasure to have you here. Very excited. Martin and I have spent quite a bit of time together, and met Martin through EO Atlantic, and then went into EO Bridge after that. But there was kind of like a gravitational pull towards, like, we just felt like kindred spirits in a lot of ways. The way that we looked at life, adventure, and business, and building things, and having those kind of wild conversations to see where they go. And we took a trip to Whistler to go to the Metronomics conference, and got to, like, snowboard on Whistler and take in all this content and stuff. It was a dream. It's like we've had some pretty amazing moments, and I consider you a close friend, you and Miriam, and I'm super pumped that we get to do this, because I'm curious about a lot of these same things that Levi just mentioned. So I will pass it over to you to, I guess, how do you introduce yourself today?
Fantastic. Thanks, guys. Very excited to be here. We chatted a little bit earlier, and I don't have a lot of experience in doing these types of things, but I talk pretty comfortably most of the time, and I'm very comfortable with you guys. So super excited. Love supporting everything that you guys are doing. And this is, I watch a lot of the episodes that you guys produce, and excited to be on it. Myself, I'm a rural Nova Scotia guy, second generation entrepreneur. I have a little hobby farm about 11 kilometers from where I live here. These guys have been by it to see it. Keep some sheep and some donkeys. Married to Miriam for a very long time now. And we live a pretty exceptional life. We work really hard with each other and on each other, and it creates quite a thing. 5 nieces and nephews, no children of our own, and get very lucky to spoil these kids and do a lot of different things. And we're just at the phase now we're starting to teach them about, they're old enough now that they're starting to come and hang out with us a little bit more, and starting to learn a little bit about business and life and community and the different things that we believe in, right? So got my start in business really as a young kid, growing up in a family that was around. My grandparents were both farmers, and my mom and dad had a welding shop. It started out in our backyard, was there till 1988, and then they moved it out to Oak Hill, where our current site is now. I went to school, became a community college. It wasn't very academic, but I went to community college for 2 years and did an electrical mechanical program. I understand tools, I guess, would be a good way of describing it. And so I lived in Halifax and Calgary, bombed around a little bit, and then in '99 came back, and I joined Dad in his business. Small, successful fab shop. A couple of big clients, and learned the ropes from him for over 5 years. Took over the business, acquired the business from him, and continued to expand it over a long period of time, where we have multitude of we're very fortunate, and we've worked hard over the years, and we have a multitude of different companies that we operate today in different arenas, like really completely different arenas. And we're lucky to get to have a lot of fun, get to build a lot of stuff. And that's very important to me. I enjoy building things, as Colby knows, right? So very important.
Before we jump into some of the business side, I like that you mentioned I'm not very academic, but actually in my mind, you're one of the most excited learners that I know.
Yeah.
Your excitement about learning new things and reading these books and hearing from these thought leaders. Like I always leave with some new nugget, author or idea. When was that, like, but you self-label as not really an academic? How do you marry those two?
So I learned and have continued to learn very quickly, but in probably a non-traditional way, figured out, right? So I have a bit of a theory where you dump it on the floor and try to put it back together. And I've been like that my entire life, where it's been a lot of just figuring out. And when I was in business, when I first joined the company, I was 24-ish. By the time I was 28, I realized that, two things. One, that I did have a bit of a knack for this. And two, I couldn't read good enough. So I had to kind of really learn how to read, because I couldn't keep pace with the different things that were coming through. So I was into, I kind of like to do things in 5-year blocks, seems to be the way that it runs for me, where I'd get deeply engaged in a topic or a subject for around 5 years, sometimes 4, sometimes 8, but in these little blocks of time where I would essentially spend all of my extra time focused on that topic or that subject or that activity. And it happened to be offshore sport fishing at the time. So I bought a series of books about sports fishing and knot tying and rigging. And I sat out in a building and I read them until I could read half decently. And then I turned to business books. So the first business book was Swimming with the Sharks and Surviving. I think I read it in 2005. It's a book by McKay. I think it's McKay or McMackey. He was an envelope guy, and it just like had a fundamental of like 8 fundamentals that you just still today haven't changed, right? So so that was kind of where the journey. But I think that the real difference of academic and how I learn, I guess I would consider academic being school or university and case study, which is probably not ideal.
Less applied.
Less applied. And I believe in applied, right? So a lot of my executive ed, which I have been fortunate and hunted it out over my lifetime, a lot of it comes from, it's not an MBA. It's like the entrepreneur that built the company does a 6-hour session with you, and you ask questions and you grind out the real things that happen. It's just different than other ways that people learn, right? Interesting enough, I am going in 2 weeks to Ivey School of Business in taking the QuantumShift program with 50 other entrepreneurs from across the country. Case study style, the whole shot at the university there. So I'm a little intimidated by that, nevertheless, and I got some case study reading to do before I go, and pretty excited and nervous at the same time for it.
Oh wow, I'm very jealous. That sounds incredible. What an experience that's going to be.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to be pretty cool. So.
Yeah, not to diminish MBAs in any way, because I also that's on my list of I want to do. But also, I know a lot of MBAs that would pay a lot of money and give their left foot for the amount of speakers and reading that you've done. So I don't it's normal to be nervous or intimidated, but I expect you're going to fit right in.
Yeah,
I don't think that's going to be an issue.
And I think a little bit of that grinding fear is just, some of the experiences you have in life when you're a kid kind of hang on you, and that would have been coming from, probably being uninterested and unable to focus in school, and therefore not doing well on the written parts of school. When I was in community college, I didn't do well in the academic or the written part of it, but in the shop class stuff, like nobody, I just breezed through it. Again, once I got in with my hands and started being able to think logically about how stuff went together, it was fairly, it was exciting for me, and it was a lot of fun. It was the first time something kind of clicked like that, right? So it's kind of neat.
It was actually not that, I don't know how many episodes ago now we talked about that, because that's something that I've been discovering right now is like, I have some of those old wounds that still kind of lead the way in some situations now.
Absolutely.
And it's it is scary.
Yeah.
And no matter how many, it's funny, we're all still kids that just grew up, right?
Yeah, the lingering pieces of I always attest to it as firmware. To adjust or change your firmware in your system is really, really difficult. It takes real reflection and real change. And like my culture here and my companies haven't always been wonderful. Like there was my dad was an aggressive leader. He was from that period of time where aggressiveness won. And so how did you learn to lead? Well, I learned to lead by being aggressive. And there's a lot that comes from that that's really hard to change, because my experience has been that it's really easy to be mad. Being mad's easy, right? Not being mad is really hard. And it's really hard to slow back and catch yourself, because if you make a mistake and that old firmware comes up really hot, you got to be able to like stop mid-sentence, go, hey, well, I'm not showing up how I want to show up. I'm going to take this away, and I'm going to go take a minute, and then I'm going to come back and we'll finish this. Right. So, and that's, I don't get that right very often, but I would hope that I'm getting it right more often than I used to. Right. So super hard. That firmware stuff is real difficult, right? It lingers.
Sure.
Yeah.
And just what was the book that first business book you read, the shark one? What was that called?
Swimming with the Sharks.
Is it a coincidence that you went from the kind of brushing up on reading with the fishing books right to a shark?
No, I don't think. Some guy that I did, one of the business unit leaders at one of the local manufacturing companies that we do work for, suggested that I read it. He said, "Hey man, you could benefit from this." So I said, "Cool, I'll read that." So that's
and it was good.
I probably couldn't tell you the 6 or 8 core items in there anymore, but like simple things like a handwritten note goes a long ways. Like it's stuff like that was that following up and just basic courtesy, but it makes a big impact on people, right?
Cool. I kind of like we've been talking about your history, and I see you as like very much the entrepreneur. I couldn't picture you in an employee role. I just like it just doesn't work. Yeah. But when I think about your earlier history, you were, college student. You grew up in an entrepreneur family, but college student, and you worked in the business under your father. Yeah. And then you took over, or you. I'm sure that wasn't a moment in time. That was probably a progression. But I was wondering, when did you actually self-ascribe as an entrepreneur? Because now I think you're very comfortable with that, and I'm always curious about because for some people that's a big shift, and they're the imposter syndrome's in, or what was that change for you and for your self-identity?
Yeah. So it's 31. I was 31 years old, and as it did when I was 28, a few new things clicked, and I can't remember exactly what was happening, but I was like, oh yeah, I get this. I get what this is how this works. I starting to understand how to kind of maneuver a few of these different things, right? And understand my advantages have been phenomenal. Growing up with grandparents as farmers and parents as entrepreneurs, and then in an entrepreneurial business. My dad was 48 when I joined the company. He was done at 54, out. Most kids or people in my situation, I'm 51 now. Their dad would still be at the helm working today. He was like, I'm out of here. I don't want to be here anymore. He did 20 years and he's like, I'm done. Right. So that advantage was it's like a 2x4 in the face, right? Because you don't have a clue what you're doing, right? So
Yeah.
even though you had this structure and you were able to do these things, you had no clue, right? So he would call me and he would say, "Hey, I think you need to get a scrapyard going." I was like, "A scrapyard?" He said, "Yeah, I think there's an opportunity for a scrapyard." So I'd go do a little bit of work, and then lo and behold, 2 years later, I'd have a scrapyard started up. And like, so he would toss nuggets at you, right? And yell at you once in a while, but generally, like, he helped shape the direction that I was going in. So even though you were being like really entrepreneurial and running risk and understanding things like what is entrepreneurship? It's seeing something that perhaps somebody else doesn't see, but I think even more so than that, it's betting on yourself to make that work.
Yeah.
Right. Like, because that's really what it's about. Like, are you willing?
Believing that you can actually make a change in something.
That's right. Can I make this go? And if I don't, how is that going to affect me? Right. Because there's always a side effect. Is the other side of that coin is, if this doesn't work, what's the risk? Right. And, I'd spend a little bit of time on that and more time on, there's no way I'm not going to make this work. Right. And so I would say that, in that range of that 31 to 33 year age, when Harry was kind of out and he was still tossing some ideas at me, and that's really where it kind of became, okay, I can kind of get this, and I am actually kind of entrepreneurial, and I do understand risk, but it really, all of that backs up is I was a really good operator, right?
Yeah.
The entrepreneurship worked because I wasn't afraid of risk, because I trusted my operational skills. Does that, you understand what I'm saying, right?
It makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you are an extreme, like most of the things in your main business, I can tell that you, like, for a lot of people to have this discussion is like, well, I need to find somebody to do it. But like almost anything in your company, if you have to, you can hunker down and do a better job, which makes it extra challenging for you to get out of
it's impossible.
Out of operations.
It makes it really difficult, right? So I've tried to force myself out of things by adding more things, which, again, I don't know if that's the right way, but hey, if we try to grow over here, or we try to invest in this area here, and investing's a light word, we're really like, hey, can we do something here or not? And then by do something, like a lot of people are like, today, I'd like to have minority positions in different companies. I don't want a minority position in anything, right? We are an operating company, and I believe that that's what we are here to do, is operate really good businesses, right? So
Yeah.
And not all of them are really good. And we make lots of mistakes, right? So, but overall, we hit more balls than we miss, right? And at least the ones that we hit cover the multitudes that we're missing, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah. So
what I do like
think,
it, I don't.
Go ahead.
Sorry. No, I just like what I do like it. It's not really a like you mentioned, is like sometimes to get myself out of what I'm doing, I add more things. But what I like, and I want to know if this is intentional or if it was outside input, you didn't just add more work things and new businesses and new services. Like you say it's a small hobby farm. In mine, it's the largest hobby farm I know of before you go commercial. But also, like, you're still doing things with family. You're hugely active in the community. Like, you're pointing to the big initiatives you're doing. Just like you add a lot of other, and I know you have your own house project. Like, you're adding these things to your life that aren't necessarily work. And I see a lot of those business owners that they do this, but it's all business. Like, they're so far into it, and you are still adding things to your plate, and you're investing your time and keeping yourself at like a high level of performance and productivity, but not just in a business vein. I was wondering if is that only in the last few years? Has that always been something you've lived? Is that something you've had to learn over time? Is there any intention or reason to that?
And I'm also pretty sure that I was on the phone with you at one point, and you were like, you had to go like deliver a sheep between meetings. That kind of stuff.
Yeah. So, I have good energy. I don't know what to tell you, right? Like I think that I think if you go back to the 5-year piece, right? My attention span is limited in what I do. And so I really, really enjoy figuring things out. So, when Miriam and I moved to the farm, like we were like, oh, we'll wait a few years to get animals. It was like, I don't know, 7 months, right? And then, well, now we ended up with a bunch of donkeys and sheep because we're going to buy sheep, and ended up buying the whole farm. And, and then it's like, oh, we'll get some cows. And then, and then all of a sudden, like, we're birthing 4 or 5 calves a year and 20 lambs, right? And it's her and I doing this. And, so I just think that, I don't know. I've never believed in half measure. I don't play golf, right? Do you know why? You know why I don't play golf? Because I'm not willing to give enough time to it to be good at it. And at some point, maybe I'll be willing to give enough time at it to be good at it. But until that day, I'm not going to bother playing, right? Not because I don't want to go be social and have fun. And if Colby wants to play a round of golf, we've played lots of rounds. But it is non-competitive, non-interesting to me. I'm there for the person that I'm with, right?
Yeah.
So for me, excellence is a choice, right? And excellence is driven from who you are internally, how fit you are. I believe that fitness drives a lot of that for myself personally, right? I think that all excellence is driven by your physical condition starting, because your physical condition can drive your mental condition, and then if you have that on autopilot, then you're driven, right? And then it's just like, hey, we can do this. And I don't know. I've always thought that, if Bob can do this, why can't I? Right. So it's just a driver. A lot of interests and a lot of fun. Right. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just,
it makes sense. For me, it's like, I agree with what you're saying. It's just the fact that you're investing in the personal life. It feels like it's very balanced from now. Like, you're not abdicating from your role in family, community, and partnership.
Yeah, so I've been really fortunate. It dawned on me early in my career that I didn't have what it takes because I never learned certain skills, and those are more soft skills, right? And how to interact with people and how to control yourself when you're around people. So, I sought out help, and then that help led to different help. And then, they founded the EO Atlantic chapter 15 years ago. I was a founding member, joined the board right away. Then the personal growth from that was humongous, right? Because it exposed me to all these different people that were generally on a similar-ish kind of a path, right? And through there, we got exposed to different speakers, and like you see and you hear all the time. One of my favorite lines is failure at home is failure at home is this, you might as well fail at business. If you can't be successful in both spots, you're wasting your time, right? So, I believe in that, and I believe in family, and I believe in, all those things. What is the good of success if there's nobody to enjoy it with you? Right. I just really believe that. Right. So I consciously worked at making space for everybody in my life that needs it, and making space for the community, and making space for myself, because my personal goal this year is 6 oxygen masks, right? So people are like, what the hell does that mean? Well, that's 6 mini vacations, 6 mini breaks for myself, where I look after who I am, the oxygen mask on the airplane, because I can't show up for everybody else if I'm in a poor place.
I was thinking like 6 really long bike rides where you're going to need an oxygen mask.
No, and I mean that but that could be one of them, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
But it's a mountain bike trip. It's a you led to, we are Miriam and I are building our forever home on our farm property right now, and that's been an absolute joyous learning event for us, right? I way over involved with everything, and our builders and architects and everybody are fantastic, and they're putting up with me, so it's great, right? But so we haven't had as much pauses as I normally would, and I notice that, right? I notice that I'm off track right now in my gym a little bit. I'm not as fit as I normally would be this time of year, and that all those things play a role, right? So but yeah, I think that if you're gonna back to the how do you, not even how do you do it, but even why do you do it? It's like. I remember I was working with a person. They said, "Well, Martin, what do you want to experience in life?" And my answer was everything, right? And I mean that. I want to experience as absolutely as much as I possibly can, because this is short. We are only here. Your impact is gone within one generation, right?
Yeah.
So what you have is your experiences, and you might as well make as many of them as you can while you're there. And that is more than just business. Now, understand that business is my driver, right? This is what I love. This is what I love, and this is what enables me to do all these other things, because you couldn't do them all. Like, you can't change the world with zeros in a bank account, right? And I'm not saying I'm looking to change the world, but the 3 feet that's around me, I want to help at least give everybody the opportunity to elevate themselves in that space, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And I'd like to kind of hear a bit more about this kind of personal growth journey. Like you joined EO, you said that was extremely impactful. You said you started off kind of as a more on the aggressive side of leadership when you originally kind of stepped into that role. How did that start to change for you, and what kind of realizations started popping up for you?
Yeah. So I, you are who you hang around with, right? And, you guys have probably heard me say this before, but I just want to do cool shit with cool people, right? And we all need our tribes, or we all need our places where we're with people that are like ourselves. And EO is that space. Now, I also believe that you have to be uncomfortable in spaces where you shouldn't be, right? So, but within, I spent a lot of time doing a lot of the EO lifestyle stuff for quite a few years, and I still to today, I'm still a very active member. In 3 different forums, and I do a lot of different variant types of forums and non-traditional, right? But but I'm still involved in a lot of different things, and I think the exposure to what can be by being around all these brilliant people is what helped steer the bus. Because, for me, it was like, wow, again, back to Bob's doing that. Why can't I do that? And I think that that's always been, that's not a jealousy or anything like that. I'm not jealous of these guys or people. It's, wow, that's another level that I'm not on. So if I can hit that level, what does that open up for myself and everybody around me? And if it doesn't open anything up for anybody but me, well, then that's cool too, right? It's just it's just that constant push, right? That constant push to just, I always said, and you guys heard me say this before, like I'm going over that way. There's where I'm heading. And, if I get there, I get there. If I don't, or if I turn past, like, I don't really care. I just know that the future is bigger than my past, always. And what am I doing to help get myself to there? But the EO, the exposure to the people, the ideas, the thoughts, all the training that we took, and then, member leadership, and then, I was really involved in forum and all the different things. And it just taught a different way, that you don't have to be a drill sergeant to run your business. You need to create a space for really bright people to do really awesome things. And if you can create that space, they'll surprise you in what they can do every day. Now, I fail at that still all the time, right? Because back to that operator mentality, you know, it's like, you know, I was in the setting of doing a bunch of settings in the back end of Microsoft and setting up emails the other day. Like that is not what I should be doing, but hey, now I know how to do it. So get out of the way. Right. So, so
Yeah.
like there's a give and take there, to a point. I'm my
Yeah.
biggest limiter in the business, right? I'm the biggest limiter here now
Yeah.
because my ego tells me I'm really good at things. So
If I owned a business that still
becomes
had
a
a
blocker.
kitchen, it would be the very same.
Right. It just
It's-
the ego tells you,
Yeah.
it's like, good job, buddy. You just saved a day again. Right. That's
Yeah.
that voice in the back of your
Yeah.
head. It doesn't matter how humble and how much work you do to keep that stuff depressed. It's it's lingering around. Right. So
Feels good to win.
But also, like, to notice that and know what it is seems like a huge win.
yeah,
Like,
I think, and that came before EO, and that's why EO became so valuable, right?
Right.
Like I was like, I can't do this on my own. I need a coach. So I've had coaches since I was 32, right? And I have one or two coaches of some physical, mental, life, advisor, whatever it is. I've had somebody helping point out the things that I'm not seeing, right? Always in my life, somebody giving me a nudge, hey, you said you're going to do this. It's not done yet. Right. Because that's real. And it's not always easy, to keep on track of what's actually important. Because important, not urgent, are the things that really on the long term put you where you want to go. But like, not important, urgent is a lot of fun some days, right?
yeah.
How did you pick your first coach? I've talked to a few people lately like that, like when you finally make the decision for whatever reason, recommendation, but that first one's going to color your entire experience about coaching as a professional. And I'm just like, you're a pretty detailed, like you go in deep on some of these things.
Yeah.
So how'd you pick the first one?
I think, the deepness is if you're going to do it, right? That's, if you're going to go offshore fishing, go offshore fishing, right? Like
It's worth doing. It's worth doing.
That's right.
Yeah,
If you're going to do it, if you're going to put this is like golf, right? Golf wasn't worth it to me. I think golf's a wonderful game. I watch the Masters, watch 20 minutes of the Masters. Right? So, but it's fantastic, but it's not what I'm into. So, but if you're into it, like be into it. So what kind of went on is I did like some program at the local chamber, and it was something around, values and mission statements and things like that in your business. And I was like, hey, this stuff sounds interesting, because like that stuff wasn't top of the pile at the time. Right. It was the larger companies had all adapted it, but it wasn't like it's almost overused some days today. Now, I think very important. I'm not poo-hooing it, but it's almost like,
it's authenticity to it.
Yeah, it's just come on, right? So, but it was kind of new then. So I was like, hey, in order to take this company to where it needs to go, I built a internal council, and we brought everybody in, and I hired the coach from there, and I brought her in, and then I worked with her a couple of times, and then she passed me off to another coach, and then I worked with that coach a little bit, and then she said, I'm moving away, so I'd like you to meet this person here. Pass me off to her, and then I stayed with her for like 3 years, and interesting enough, still talk to her all the time. And at the time, introduced her and put sessions with every single person within my organization. So everybody met her, my family met her, my parents met her, my key staff met her. And that really enabled her to get a proper view of who I am, to help me reprogram that firmware at that beginning stage.
She had a real 360 on that.
Yeah, it was, right? So then that went up into, I started EO. And then once EO came in, I was like, oh, what's this new shiny ball? And then that's when I shifted off. I went full bore again. If you're going to do something, do it all. I went all in on EO, and I ran at that. And so I guess for a little period of time, I faded off of her, and then my form kind of acted as my peer group, but really I was more into member leadership than I was anything else. That was my favorite growth point, right? So I did local membership, and then, forum chair and chapter president and a bunch of other stuff there. And then moved off and did regional stuff. And then off that, finally in 2020, when I stepped off, I was on a global committee at that stage, right? So that was a lot of fun. But probably around 2007, had a shift in business. And over my career, I've had five shifts where we've had a decrease of 30+% within a 1 week period. And those are pretty brutal because your whole game's shot at that point. So that's happened 5 times to me over my career. So this was one of those times, and we had an EO event in Halifax, and I was just like, I'm not going to bother going up to this. And I was like, you know what? I signed up for it. I'm going to go. So I went up and I met Sean, and Sean talked about a bunch of stuff in the wheel of life and how you're doing with your friends and money and all the different, and how you're living authentically and all this stuff. And it was pretty good, but he had a real fitness aspect to it. And I was like, that's pretty cool. And I like that. And then on my way home, I was like, you know what? I need to shake it up here. This guy was pretty cool. So I called him, and then bang, he was my coach for 4 years, and we still stay in touch today. Right. So, so then it just kind of evolved from there, one to the next to the next. And sometimes it's not an official arrangement. Sometimes it's just somebody that you're talking to for 6 months about different things. Right. We hired, wasn't in good shape, cigarette and, drinking a little bit, and, needed to change everything. So, we were talking to a few friends, and they're like, like it really worked for me when I hired a personal coach. So that must have been 10 years ago now. Hired a personal coach, changed my life. Right. She came to our house 3 days a week. Everybody's like, oh, it's so expensive. Really? It's your life. Right.
Yeah.
It's your life. Right. So Lisa, her name's Lisa. She's a lawyer now, oddly enough. But she fundamentally changed the direction of Martin and Miriam's life, because she came to our house and coached us for 2 or 3 years, 2 or 3 days a week. How valuable is that? It's not, you can't put a dollar value on that. My life has been what it is today based on some of those choices. And then, the habit, you got to build the habit of getting it done. Right. And just incredible. Right. So if you allow great people to influence you, then, you can do great things with it. Right.
Yeah. Oh, that's great.
It is great.
It's
working
yeah.
Funny that you say that about you're always working with like 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 people. And I've actually never really thought about it that way, but like I do continue the numbers actually going up in my head in real time of how many people I'm like consistently kind of working with on those self-improvement things. Right now, I think it's 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some paid, some not.
That's right. And it's just mentors or whatever it is, peers. But, I really believe in the power of that, the power of, I don't really know if I call it a little bit of accountability, but what does a good coach do? Calls your BS, like, hey, maybe you're not right here, pal. Right. And not right from like, hey, you shouldn't do this or shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
I don't like shoulds. I don't want people shoulding me, and I don't like shoulding people. Right. So, but perspective, a different viewpoint of what it is you're trying to do or achieve. And, and then actually taking that and thinking about it. Right. Like, I think that without changing subjects, but I think that the shortening of attention span is detrimental to us as humans. And I think that when people, if you can have somebody helping bump you in the right direction when you're trying to do something, You know, they
Mhm.
don't need to educate you. They don't need to do anything. They just need to kind of help bump you along and share their experience and say that maybe what you're looking at could be looked at from a different angle, right? And
Mhm.
just kind of bring that up, you know, like the short attention spans today, everybody's like quick, 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 quick. I don't think people sit and think about what it is they're doing or think about how they're thinking. You know, like
Yeah.
I spend a lot of time thinking about how I think about things, and I spend a lot of time just thinking about things, right? You know, I'm back and forth. I'm driving all the time. Like I don't. Sometimes I got music on. Some like everybody's like, oh, I got this podcast. I got this podcast. Like, uh, just think. Be with yourself for a minute, right? Think about what it is you're trying to achieve. Think about what it is that you're working at. Don't have the radio
Mm.
on. Don't have a screen in front of you. Expand that attention span and do thought experiments, right? You know, if you can sit and think through problems in your head or think through, you know, do you know why the shower is so important for your thinking?
I think I do, but you can
Right.
answer.
Because you're unobstructed, right? There is
Yeah.
nothing else to do but think, right? You know, so
Yeah.
that really drives, you know, here's an interesting piece. One of the greatest things that Miriam and I did for our relationship was put in a $5,000 soft tub outside of our house. Because when we're in there, we're stuck with each other, right?
Right.
We're just
Yeah.
there, right there as we are there. So we get to talk and enjoy each other
Yeah.
while we were there. It's phenomenal. It's absolutely phenomenal. It was like the simplest little thing that you ever did, but
Yeah.
it's unobstructed attention for each other, right? You know? So
It's a great call.
yeah,
Levi,
but
Levi,
I believe that thinking is important, right? And that people don't think as much as they used to, perhaps, because we're distracted with whatever it is that's around us. You know, things move fast, right? And I move fast. Like,
Yeah.
I move fast. I'm not opposed to moving fast, but understand that I spend a lot of time thinking,
Yeah.
thinking about whatever. When I'm on my tractor for 3 or 4 hours at a time, like I'm thinking, right? So just a different approach,
It's
maybe.
you want me to go,
it,
Levi? I got
sure. You go ahead.
the. It's funny that what you're saying right now is resonating quite a bit because my mind, I don't think I realized how much it raced and jumped and tabs open and a whole other computer in there somewhere as well. And now I'm working on not only quieting the mind, because I'm the type of guy that can walk around this house in silence all day. Like I won't put on music because I don't need that other thing happening. And I'm a musician, but that extra thing that's like happening in my brain is like distracting for me. But now I'm trying to quiet the mind and then reevaluate how I'm thinking about things.
Mm, super
uh,
cool.
Mm.
which is a very interesting challenge. So I'm working with a meditation coach right now. That's what I'm paying the most money for, and it's fantastic. And met her through EO, and it's interesting because I'm like, is my perspective of the world the right one? I don't know.
But it's your
I'm not sure.
perspective, right?
Yeah, it's like
It's what you see.
and these
So
limiting ideas,
that's
whether
right.
they're from like childhood and all that kind of stuff. It's just that
Yep.
it's kind of the furthest I've gotten. Like instead of just trying to think my way or talk my way through it, is this like really intense meditation, breath work,
Mhm.
and doing it I meet with her 4 times a week, and it's intense.
Mhm.
But I'm now starting to see the effects of it as about 2 weeks ago, and like
That's awesome.
other folks are noticing a difference in me, which is kind of interesting.
That's
Mhm.
awesome.
Yeah.
So it's funny. Like this was we got here pretty, innocently, but it's a very validating. So you know this, Colby. I don't even know if you've read it yet, but my personal thing I've been working on is I've written a book,
Oh,
and
nice.
I've been working on it a while, and I'm pretty happy with it. And there's a final draft that I've got a half dozen people reading and getting some feedback on. But it's literally called "Think Before the Room," a teachable framework for more thorough critical thinking before you have a conversation or make a chat or go over a problem. because again, like, I think that's like the skill of tomorrow. Like, things are speeding up, like the art of thinking through things, thought models,
That's right.
scenarios, different perspectives. How do you wrestle that, but in a teachable way? Like, we
Yep.
have a team that we're pretty happy with, but it's like there's things I'm able to do mostly because of like a really hard 10 years in hospitality where you had to like make shit up on a daily basis. But how do you teach it?
Right.
And how do you teach critical thinking?
I don't know.
And so that's
Haven't figured that out yet, right?
so I'm making
yeah.
a stab at it, and I think it's been
That's
really
good.
fun. I've also learned that you cannot write a book with AI. Anybody who tells you that they can is out to lunch. But it has been interesting to like what it can do to help you out. But very validating subject, like that thinking through things is such a. I'm worried about it missing, like it disappearing. So how do we start building literature around it?
Yeah, exactly. And so you guys have worked with me, and I've been in a room with me a few times, and varying experiences there, I'm sure. But like, I think that something most people who spend time in a room with me would say is that I'm fast, right? One of the things that, pretty quick at whatever it is we're talking about, thinking and making a decision. I'm not fast. I've just already thought about it.
Yeah.
Right. So I've thought about, like, I spend all this time thinking about all these different things. And then once actually in the room, one thing is only 2 steps or 3 steps away from something else. So it's just pattern recognition, putting it together, and then you have this idea, right? And it's like, oh, I've seen something like that over here before. How can I utilize it here? Right? Does that make sense?
Sometimes that you like, I would describe you as fast just because you're high energy.
You
have efficiency in your movement and the way you use words. And but like my favorite, like there's a couple Martin moments in my head, and one of them was like you were in a regular huddle and there was something come up. I don't even remember what the issue was. And it was like, all right, let's pause everything, everybody to the whiteboard room, and let's just walk through and map out the whole thing. Like that, go one step slower to go faster.
Yep.
And like, but that, like, it felt fast because it happened immediately. There wasn't like a second guessing, but it like, we added on a whole bunch of like thinking before we move forward. And so like, it's just that dichotomy between, we actually slowed things down in one way to think about them more thoroughly, but you moved at such a rapid pace and talked so quickly that you had to keep up with the tour. So there's some interesting dynamics there.
Yeah. It's an odd combination, right? So some of the challenges that I have are being too instantaneous, right? Like in that moment, right? It probably served in that moment, but a complete pivot or change of direction in another moment might not serve, right? And that happens. So no, that's cool. That's we had some fun here working on some of the problems, right? Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
I have a similar problem, not problem, but I have a similar trait that I need to find ways to work with. Because I'm very much a like connect dots, think out loud, make things like. And we're kind of building a new service and coming up with operations, and we do these collaborative sessions with a few people that really matter. Their opinion really has to be in this, but some people think and then speak, and I don't. I speak to think, and just making sure that you leave space for both to live is something like I've always been self-aware, but like right now I feel I'm in a season of having to really. Okay, does this decision need to be made right now? Like, could we just like
I hear
get it to a certain point and leave people? Because I'm going to get better results, more engagement, more healthy conflict, more alignment if we just paused for a minute. Where I can't even take 30 seconds of silence, much less a wait a day.
Right.
But I'm trying very hard to to build that skill.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to stop. It's hard to pause. It's hard to get a room full of people thinking in the same direction.
Yeah.
Right? It's really hard to do that. Like, it's really it's really hard to get people rowing in the same direction. And a lot of people talk like they have it really nailed down, and I would probably call BS. I really would. I think that most of this stuff is really easy to talk about and really hard to execute well over a long period of time. And, I believe that anything great is on the other side of really hard work.
Yeah.
And that as soon as you forget that it's the hard work that puts you where you are, you fall back, you don't lean forward. Right. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. Right.
And I don't think AI or technology is going to change
I
that.
don't think so. No,
There's
no.
always been
I
a
think
lucky
that
few that skew
I
the math, but
that's right. So I think a couple of things cool with AI is I think that it increases my IQ, right? I
yeah,
think that it allows me to understand things faster that I normally wouldn't have been able to understand
yeah,
when I utilize it as an assistant or a tool to support me.
yeah.
But I also would like to remind everybody that ChatGPT right now is telling the dumbest people that you know that they're right.
Yeah,
That's hilarious.
It's
yeah,
true.
yeah.
It's
It's
very
scary.
true. It's
It's
very
very
true.
scary.
So it like I get stuff from people all the time and I was like, this is wild, right? You know, like who,
Yeah,
why would you send somebody this? But I believe that it's a fantastic tool and it's going to change everything. And, you know, agents and all the different, that's a whole other can of worms that we could talk about for days.
yeah,
You know, I spend quite a bit of time at it because we don't want to be left behind. Right.
yeah, yeah,
You know, we want to be on the front, not the front side because that's not who we are, but,
yeah,
we want to be on the leading back edge anyways. Right. So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Is that some of the main reasons? Like, what's attracting you to this new Ivy League program? Is it around technology, or
So
is it just?
I needed a new room. That's it.
Yeah,
Right. I
the
needed a
word
new room.
quantum made me think
I
tech,
had
but
walked through a lot of the EO rooms and I always went back. I believe that you want to be small in the corner, right? So totally out of your league as much as you possibly can. And then I believe that you have a responsibility once you grow big in that room to go to the next room, but then you have a responsibility to go back to that room and
yeah,
share what you learned, right? So I think it's a
yeah,
balance that you're going back and forth all the time. And I am really comfortable in EO, and that's a problem. So it's time to do something that wasn't in that circle. So this is something that's not in that circle.
nice.
Makes
Interesting.
sense, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It
So
does.
so what I did is, when I found out about it, and you gotta get a KPMG sponsor to go and a bunch of stuff. So I had to interview a bunch of people and things. So what I did is I went on their webpage and I went down through all the last bunch of years in the alumni lists and basically wrote down who was from Nova Scotia that I could probably talk to and dug up a couple names and I just cold called them. Hey, this is what I'm thinking of doing. Do you think there's any value in this? I knew the one, I didn't know the other people. Right. So,
Mhm.
and, you know, everybody talked to me and said it was well worth the time. And so off we go.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, can't
Cool.
wait to find out more
Yeah. It'd be
how
cool.
that went.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Sheesh. Levi, did you have anything before I change subjects?
You go ahead. I feel like I keep talking first. I'm trying very best not to talk first every time. Otherwise, Colby talks 10% of the time. Not because he doesn't
Right.
have something to say,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
because I just kill silence.
Yeah. I'm a good talker too, Levi. Right. So
Yeah.
it happens.
I've been curious. I guess there's a few different ways that we could go right now, I suppose. But is there anything that you're working on right now? Like I know we mentioned the Ivey, the program that you're going into, but
Yeah.
is there anything specifically that like is kind of talked about AI a little bit? That's kind of at the forefront of anything. But is there
Yeah.
anything like you're working on right now that's kind of interesting?
Yeah, so there's always a little something interesting going on, and so I unstructured spend a fair amount of time on AI stuff to try to understand it to get better
Mhm.
at it. I have an AI coach, right? So and that's really kind of fun, and we're going to do a get to know AI program here in the fall for the company
Nice.
because my curiosity, which is again another big piece of entrepreneurship, my curiosity allows me to just go in and fiddle around with stuff. So I've been able to learn fairly quickly, but like not everybody has that same curiosity. Not right, not wrong.
Yeah.
It's what I have, right? But that allows
Yeah.
me to learn some of these things, and so I'm not an instructor. So I want to have somebody who's an instructor come in and help bring my team along, because that's not a skill that I really work at and don't really want to. So it's kind of like golf, just not going to bother with it. Right. So,
Mhm.
so I do spend a fair amount of time on the AI side of stuff. I have a mini Mac set up and, the whole, playing with it on
Nice.
the different infrastructure and doing all that. And whether or not
Nice.
it makes any sense, I have no idea. But I just keep playing with it. So that's cool. In 2020, during the pandemic, as you guys know, we bought, what then was On Payroll Canada and now is Bridgewater Talent, Bridgewater TI. There's been some real proper lessons come through that experience. And we're at the stage now where, we're so I knew nothing, basically. And as much as I thought I understood the basics of that business, I had no clue. I had no right to buy that company. And so luckily we put good people in and they were able to run it and keep it going. And then, you guys come in, we helped, we built some stuff. And then, we hired these people and then marketers and tried to do all these different things. And so it's like, a bunch of years there, 3 years of just big capital outlay and trying to understand what to do and how to grow it and scale. Cause I still believe it's a scalable business. Right. But in February, I stepped into the role of leading the growth. And so that's really, besides building the house, that's really where my focus has been here in the last couple of months. And I'm standing on the work that everybody else contributed to this, that really knows what they're doing. But I was able to learn. So I understand enough. I don't understand, I'm not going to do the media buying, right? That's not what I'm talking about, right? But I understand copy. I understand the process. I understand ad and attention. I understand SEO and how it works and scores and backlinking on your website. 3 years ago, I knew nothing about any of that stuff. And today I have a generalist's knowledge enough that I can actually lead us through. And we're starting to see leads coming through and, but it was the work that somebody else did. Right. So a bunch of other people, we hired really smart people to help us build and put this structure in. Right. And then, essentially I kicked them all out when the glory started to come. And now I'm in play trying to drive the bus. Right. But so it's a lot to it. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
And we've talked.
And it's changing quickly.
We've talked over the years, right? Yeah, absolutely changing quickly. If you see what we invested in Google AdWords, zero. We got zero. Everybody's got to buy Google Ads. So we bought Google Ads. 2 different companies, no fault of theirs, no traction.
Yeah.
Life changes, right? So the adoption, how quickly you adopt to that change, how quickly you pivot, and how much risk you're willing to take in the investment. Because, $1,000 isn't going to get you anywhere. So you got to be willing to say, hey, look, I'm going to dump X zeros on this to see if this is going to take me somewhere. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. And you have to be really, really good with it if it doesn't, because chances are that it's more likely it's not going to work than what it's going to work. Right. So that the ability to just get back up and swing the ball again, not overextend yourself, but extend yourself to the point that it will make a difference if it hits. And I feel, which of course I've said this for 4 years now, I feel like we're really about to hit the ball. That's how.
Yeah, 5-year overnight success.
Right. And I would guess that we're 5 more before it actually gets to where hey, cool. So, what problem, good friend of all of ours, Matt's, what problem are we solving for? Right. It's attention, solve for attention. Then you're going to solve for the lead. You got to get the right. So then you got to get the right attention. So you solve for that. And then you solve for close. Right. How do you close long tail? A lot of the stuff we're working on 6, 8, 10 months to close. Right.
Yeah.
Because they're fishing here. They don't need anything to way over here. So, so then now you're solving the close. So now you get onboard. So then you're onboard employee, onboard client, deal with foreign exchange, setting up in other countries. It's all the different little steps that come along with it. It's endless. Solve for the onboard. Now you solve for delivery. How do you solve for that? And then how do you build count growth? then how do you streamline what it is that you're actually targeting? Right now, we'll take anything. Hey, you got money, we'll take it. Right. But then you want to build that up, then you want to isolate, bring it in. What's your actual target market? What are you really trying to do? And then how do you expand and grow that? And then what do you do with it once you grow it? Right. I'm just going to take I want to harvest, I want to grow, harvest it and reinvest it in things in our backyard here that probably don't make as much money and don't make as much sense and are way more work. But it's what's fun, right? It's the building, the chase, the figuring it out. It's just so much fun. I just absolutely love it, right?
Yeah, everything you were just talking about, because we're launching kind of a new service. Yep. We're treating it as a separate company, although it's underneath. Well, you would understand it's a different entity under the same role,
right?
Yeah, we got this bad habit from you. That's where we got this.
you guys didn't learn anything working here.
No,
right?
no. But all the way, look at the approach, and it's just like we're having those conversations around like we're kind of building this out of the cash flow of one, and like, do we want to like the bootstrap versus like, wow, should we just put a little, like, we're right in the midst of those conversations.
Your job as owners, right? As entrepreneurs, solve a problem, right? And then ownership is not entrepreneurship. And I think a lot of people confuse that. And the same as like ownership is not entrepreneurship, and the same as freelance is not entrepreneurship, right? It's not the same risk profiles. And what I do is, I'm not going to do what John Bragg's doing, right? I don't have whatever he has, right? But that's okay, because we need different levels of these folks working at all these differently. We need business owners, we need solopreneurs, we need freelancers, we need John Braggs, and we need people like we are, right? So it's very important to have all aspects, right? But like, I don't even know what I was talking about now. So what were we?
Starting our company underneath the other company, and
So like what happens is, once you've established, my experience has been, once you establish the company and now you have a return on your investment or on your work, your responsibility is what to do with that capital, right? And you can take it out, invest in stock market, do all kinds of different things with it, buy apartments, real estate, whatever. I always found it best to put it right back into my business or the next business I'm trying to do. And that's kind of what you guys are looking at now. Like I'm not telling you what you should do. Again, no shoulds, but like, allocation of that capital is so much fun, right? You get to actually think about where you're putting it and why, and you get to bet a little bit without, when you miss the ball, like, it sucks, right?
Yeah.
But if it doesn't bury you, like, whatever, it's not so bad, right? But like, it's super cool, trying to break into that new market and do that new thing, and the team you need is different. The approach is different.
We're right there. We're right at that. Like, have we gone through analysis paralysis? Like, are we good enough to start? Like, we're right in that, like, last week, this week, next week is like,
just
so it's exciting.
Close your eyes, push the button, see what happens. Right.
That's kind of where we're at.
That's it. There's no point. You'll never be ready if you wait to be ready. Everybody in the world waits to be ready.
Yeah. I had to jump off the ledge there last week. I messaged the most random person I could think of that I knew owned a small business, and I was like, "Hey, let's have a conversation about this." And he said, "Okay," and I was like, "Oh shit, here we go."
I can have a conversation. And that's it. Like, that's the best part, right? Like, that's that's the going through the website and look at the alumni. Who can I call to learn about this? And just making a phone call, right? 99% of the people won't do that. Just do it. Right? What are they going to do? Say no?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Just say no. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. I'm excited for you guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You're a well-read guy. I do want to ask. So I love, because I've been there a number of times, and I always leave with a book or a nugget.
Yeah.
Any big new things on your, like, what's the champion of the moment
for what I'm reading?
Yeah, reading or listening to. Like, what's the new things on the wall?
I don't know. It's going to sound pretty boring. I'm a pretty I'm a pretty big Jim Collins fan, right? So his new book, I haven't read his new book yet, but I listened to a couple podcasts. He's been on about it, and it's a
Same
little
here.
bit different spin from what he normally does. But it you know, I think if you go through Great by Choice and Good to Great, and
Good to Great was one of my OG.
and
Like I landed on that one
Being
early.
Too, between those three books, everything else that you see in the market came from them, right? That's all the different ways of looking at the enduring way. The way to build an enduring business is in those three books if you read them, right? So yeah, pretty big fan of that. I haven't done it in a long time, but I still really like a lot of the Dan Sullivan stuff. I did strategic coach for a couple of years, and it his is just really frameworks on how to think about your thinking and think about the problem you're trying to solve. And I'm probably not very consistent at filling the piece of paper out, but definitely have a lot of his tools running in the background. The guy who co-wrote the books with, there's every entrepreneur should read Who Not How, 10x is easier than 2x, and The Gap in the Game. The three books Ben Hardy wrote with Hardy wrote with him. They're really I've given a lot of copies of those away. They're really fundamentals of how you think and look at stuff, right?
I haven't broken into the 10x is easier than 2x yet. It's upstairs.
Right there in my books, right there on my shelf, right? So I have multiple copies are over there so I can give them away when people come in to see me. Yeah. They're those three. The order that he wrote them, my humble opinion, the order that he wrote them in is not the order to read them in. I think The Gap in the Game, then 10x, then Who Not How, right? That's the order I would recommend people read them. So I'm a pretty big fan of his stuff. It's good. It's easy reading and really impactful. I don't know. I could rattle off names for days, right? But there's all.
No, I only need a few at a time.
Yeah, those are really good.
A reason to come back. It's like
Cameron Herold. I don't know if you guys know Cameron Herold, right? He's wrote a book. He was with Brian Scudmore. Yeah, Double Double. Fantastic book. That was one of the first ones, one of the first bunch that I read. The goal was the fundamental one that really changed the way that I looked at everything.
Really?
Yeah, The Goal. Levi, you know the book?
I do, yeah.
Yeah, right there. It was probably, I read it, the first time I read it was in 2006. And basically theory of constraints in production. And it really helped shape the way that I think about a lot of things today, right? So I've read it two times maybe. But I don't know. Love that stuff. I haven't been reading as much lately. I'd go through phases where I would like really read like a book a month or whatever. Like, and that's a lot of reading for me, right? And I get into listening to podcasts and get into listening to audiobooks, and so I have a lot. And I believe it's compounding. Kind of like interest. Knowledge is compounding. It builds. It doesn't go away, and it allows you to help connect the dots, and you think about things a little bit differently. And that's really. For me, very important. You got to be able to think as an entrepreneur or whatever you want to call yourself. You have to be able to think ahead, right? Yeah. And you have to be confident enough about what you're thinking about. And you have to be really, really willing to say, hey, I'm wrong, and change that direction very quickly, right? But I think that compounding of the books and the knowledge and all that, it's a real thing, right? So, yeah. But the last little while, I'm not as read as I used to be. But I still read I still read a bit, right? Not quite a bit, but
a bit. I was interested because I think there's a portion of my brain that is activated, stimulated in certain ways, and phase of writing was the same brain of reading.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't think I ever would have connected that, but like I got a Saturday afternoon, I'm hanging out. I got some fresh brain, and I'm looking to do something that's like an investment in myself. And like writing and reading wasn't working. The same level of stimulation, and going through that exercise of thinking through stuff.
Back to short attention spans. I think that long form reading is very important, not just news articles or blogs. Like everybody's like, oh, I read these blogs, right? Like, that's great. But I mean, that's even short form thinking,
Yeah.
right? Long form, you get into long form reading and it doesn't need to be complex, right? One thing that the non-academic in me, whatever academic means, is not overcomplicating. Like I believe that when I write and communicate to people, that it's grade 8, right? That's my goal.
Yeah.
I don't need to use big fancy words.
Well, the national average is grade 2 to 4, so you're
Right.
doing well
So
at grade
like
8.
if you can write simplicity, easy,
Yeah.
making
It's the
things
hardest there
is
is.
so hard compared to anybody can write something that's confusing, right? Or use
Yeah.
a bunch of big words that they don't know what means. That was never a factor for me. It was like, how do I do this with less, right? How do I make it simpler, right? But
I do a lot of like, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No.
I do a lot of like introducing AI, like the readiness, like bringing up the floor of understanding, discuss policy, how you're going to use it, how you actually going to operationalize it, and all that stuff. And it's amazing to me. Like everybody's like, "Oh, I just give it this little nudge, and it just builds this whole document." It's like for some people, maybe, possibly, but I'll tell you, my number one use of the tool is to take my huge downloads of my brain and make it short and concise. Like it's the reverse. Everybody uses it a different way. Like I write in Levi speak and I use AI to make it Colby speak. Just that transformation.
And
piece.
like my bullet points need to be fleshed out a little bit more, and I need the prompts to flesh out some of these things more. So it's like it's
it's a great tool. I've had full on arguments with it driving down the road, right? Trying to understand how to solve, like, and again, what gets your attention gets your growth, right? If you put your attention to something, you can grow that, right?
Yeah.
And it's a tool, it's a leverage. It's another tool in the toolbox that you can lever to push that scope, right? Drive that attention. So cool.
We're seeing some very, like, I saw it. We've been talking about this, like, we're not going in unaware, but it's the first time I'm really feeling some of the effects of the change. Like we're always been like really on the edge. Like we've been using it, learning it. We have a little bit more R&D time because of the work we do. We're helping companies use these more complicated tools. But like our team was early to adopt. They all use a paid ChatGPT they have for 3 years, 2.5. And we have some pretty substantial workflows and prompts, and like we have operationalized it. And now we're like this whole, like right now, I'm sure it'll be out of date by the time this comes out, but like I, like you, have more time, curiosity. Like I'm constantly exploring and testing other tools and reframing my workflows. And so I've moved, like I'm no longer using chat. I'm mostly using, I compare, but I'm now mostly using Claude or Agentic tools. And I'm bringing back to my team things that are like way further ahead. And I'm trying to keep them informed, and I'm sharing the learnings as I go, but I'm not ever going to ask them to spend all Saturday morning and late on a Tuesday night doing this self-exploration. And now I'm like coming, I was like, man, the changes are enough that we actually need to look as a company at changing our use of these tools, because the change is that meaningful, and it's been an effing year. And I don't know if the tools are going to change again in 3 months. So like the individual tools that I use, but like when it's an investment on everybody in the company, not only the license fee is one thing, but the time it takes to retrain somebody and shift. It's so we're right in that mix of like not every company can just adapt that quickly. And we're a very adaptable team.
It's wild.
I texted Martin, I don't know, a month ago now. I was like, "Are you seeing this shit?" And we talked for, I don't know, a good 40 minutes or so, just on like, how are you using it?
Have you used Manus yet?
Yeah.
I haven't.
Wow.
I kept running out of my credits.
So
I do on Claude as well.
I have some pretty high use accounts now for myself. I'm running 4 paid accounts in different tools. Right. And running up against ceiling on a few of them. Right. So, and like, you know what? So 9 out of 10 things that I do in business do not work. right? But that
Yeah.
one thing that I do works really, really well. And it's the same with AI. I build
yeah.
9 things, maybe it's even 19 to one that works, but the one that works, it's like a
Yeah.
home run, right? And then I stack that on top of the next one, on top of the next one. And it just, you're just able to keep on building that,
Yeah.
that muscle to do it, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And there's
So,
almost 2 different strategies. Like, this is a bit of a random conversation, but it's right
oh
where
yeah,
my headspace is at, is like, I feel for me, I'm doing like leapfrog, like every once in a while something clicks and I'm moving like real needles ahead.
that's right.
But the tactic for a business, like for a whole team wide, it's
Yeah.
so much slower to adapt and change. And so the
It's
goal
impossible.
there is every week save 10 minutes, every week save 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's just this constant incremental benefit.
Yeah.
Where I'm like fundamentally changing the way I do something over here, but careful not to disrupt a
Like,
team-wide culture.
it's so hard. And then I have different models running against each other, working on the same problem and doing comparisons between them.
I
Because
do. I enjoy
again,
that.
I don't
Yeah.
trust the output of a single, but when I put the 3 together, I'm starting to trust the outputs. And then I move it over into madness if I want to create a big proposal or do whatever it is that I'm doing. Like, it just, what I don't have is systems, right? Because we're not there yet, right? But I do personally, but the company, like we're using it in 4 or 5 use cases very, very consistently, but that needs to be upped, right? So that's where we're going to try to bring that level of knowledge for my team up, because we
It's
have
still
really
upping
smart,
it, and there's not a strong foundation, right? Like,
that's right. We need to build that foundation for them, right? So,
but the tools you have access are changing so frequently, and the
Yes.
costs are not in your control, that even if you are perfect, the foundation's still fragile.
it just changes, right? It just changes, right?
Yeah.
It's so rapid today. And it's not going to change, right? It's not going to change. And I think that the back to it increases my IQ, right?
Yeah.
I think it makes me smarter.
Oh yeah, me too.
Right.
Me
I think
too.
it makes me smarter because, I'm able to take, and it can challenge me in an instant, right? Or it can change or can shift. But my God, I spend a lot of time doing nothing with it too, right? Like, there's all kinds of time spent just going, I'm sitting there and I'm like, I got to go. I can't sit here any longer. I'm getting dumber, right? And that happens too. But that happens on the shop floor. It happens in business. It happens in negotiation. Reps matter, right? The more reps you do, the faster you adapt, the faster you move through things, right? And so, like, it's you got to have the bad reps with the good reps, right? Again, back to the 9 to 1, right? Nine dummy moves to get one good one, right? And sometimes I'll do those 9 dummies in one day, right? Like, it's just like, whoa, that was a hard one, right? So
I did.
back on the horse.
I got in I had a moment the other day, might have been yesterday, yesterday, I think. Where I was like, hey, I'm noticing a lot of these threads are getting pretty long. Like, these thoughts are fleeting just as much as if I was thinking about them. Like, how do we make sure I don't lose some of this, but I don't want the crap. Like,
Right.
I was having that conversation with it yesterday, and it was like, great point. It's like, why am I
It's
even
very
doing it?
agreeable, right? It's very agreeable.
Yeah.
Different models are, right? Yeah.
I
Very exciting.
took a leapfrog forward when I stopped being so tool dedicated. When I moved to using 3, 4, 5 tools.
It
It changed
makes
a
a big
lot.
difference, right?
Yeah.
And
the
just Gemini in
perspective.
a Google search is fantastic for quick, right?
Well, and Gemini
great.
takes a video. It's the only one that I can just take a
Oh,
video.
does it? I didn't know that. There you go. Learning.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So it's I'm fascinated. I'm excited about where it's taken us all. And everybody like talks to me about, like, oh, it's going to change all this. Like, well, it's going to change a lot of things, but like, we're still like 50% of the work we're doing is helping mature organizations adopt the cloud, file storing, and
Fundamentals don't go away, man.
and like
right?
how to communicate and how to store things and how to name things and how to respect each other and how to operate, and we're not going to leapfrog that.
No.
There's a long tail of this change.
It's not going to be that fast, right?
No,
It's not going to be
maybe
that
some
fast.
sectors, maybe some spaces.
Absolutely. And humanoid robots and all that stuff that they're driving resources to today, like, yeah, it's going to work, it's going to work. But
And to tie it back into one of your earlier, there was somebody telling me is like the idea of like building a business on AI is like there's so much uncertainty and so much change, and like you're building on something that is still evolving. You can't trust what it's going to be in the future. And as they tied it back to is like, well, just go talk to a farmer who's put their life savings into growing seeds and they don't know what the weather's going to be.
you just don't know what the weather's
Like
going to be.
it's
You just
I
don't
mean, really,
that's a great point. One of the funnest things or most exciting things about doing this stuff and being, and again, difference of business ownership. I own a business, I do product A and I advance that along and I employ some people and I do that. That is different than, hey, I have product A, B, and C, and now I'm taking the cream off of those and I'm trying to do, X, Y, Z, right? That's more entrepreneurship versus business owner, right? But like the ability or the rate to absorb the failure from that is like, it's a real piece, right? And it's a real skill and it takes a lot of time to be able to do it, right? I don't know. It's so much fun. It really is. It's all so much fun.
I read the over the weekend that there was 165,000 layoffs in the tech space in like Silicon Valley area. And they're trying to replace them with AI specialists.
It's
like all these
changing,
programs
right?
gone,
Yeah. Jensen of NVIDIA said, and he was on with Lex Friedman on a podcast. I did listen to that because they're pretty good. They're long form. They're pretty solid. Yeah, he talked about like, and I don't remember the number, but he said like, say we had 1 million coders in the world. Now we have 2, right? So the skill has changed. What is coding? Is coding understand the code or is coding thinking?
Yeah.
I think it's thinking. It's a way
not very many people are teaching thinking.
Right. So this is enabling people to, become a coder and to learn how to think that way. Because that's really what coding is. It's like anything else. Like it's running a business is, there's aspects to it that are on repeat. And as business owners, we're always trying to consistently create things that don't require a lot of thought process, but it's thinking, right? All this stuff
Systems thinking.
It's all thinking. It's all thinking, right? Yep.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a great 90 minutes. What's as we come to the latter stages, what's upcoming that you're super excited about? I got one. Well, I'll ask one. It's semi-serious. I love asking this question to people. Like, you've done a lot of things. And I'd ask you to at least fake it if you have an answer. Give you a pause.
Okay.
Thinking back, current, past, long term, what makes you the most proud of anything you've ever done?
Consistently showing up. Because when I consistently show up in business and my family and the community and everything else, we can do some really cool stuff. So I think what I am most proud of is consistently showing up.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
I would visualize you as a rock in whatever situation for sure.
Yeah.
But I think consistently showing up and I think that's probably what I'm most proud of, right? Because that drives, I'm very proud of what I've done here and very proud of my relationship with my family. And I'm very proud of Miriam and my relationship and my peers and my friends and everything. But when you think about what drives all of those things, it's just consistently showing up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I love how many different answers people like. What
I'm
are
sure
you
you get all
proud of?
kinds. Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yep.
Anything else you need to get off your chest, Colby?
No, just I guess when are we hanging out again? Hurry up and finish that house so I can come see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
When
fun.
is that done?
September.
Sorry, the deep topics. We don't need to put anything on the record.
No, I mean, no, it's like you couldn't ask for a better team, right? You just couldn't. Every single person that is contributing to this project, and there's a lot of them, it's absolutely unbelievable, right? It's absolutely unbelievable. And like, I'm cranky about a whole bunch of it, and it should be going way faster, and it should. But no, man, like it is phenomenal, right? We've had there's been a whole bunch of problems, not problems, they're challenges. Like they're things that perhaps, I didn't understand going into. I'm used to commercial industrial stuff. This is not that. This is artwork. We're building artwork here, right? Like it truly is. It's a curated piece of art that we're going to have sitting on our property.
You're designing for life. I remember thinking that. You're not designing for function. You're designing for life.
It's incredible. When you walk through the spaces, there's no drywall yet or anything. Like we're getting close, getting closer to drywall. But when you walk through, you can feel like we thought about the experience when you open this door up. How does it work when you come through it, right? Like it's just, again, if you're going to do it, do all hog, right? Do the full amount that you possibly can. Now, absolute stretch, right? It's a stretch in all directions for us. It's a stretch in our capabilities. It's a stretch financially. It's a stretch everywhere. But like, it's where a lot of the fun is, right? So that's a great project. Super, super excited about that. Super excited about what comes after that, which I don't know what that is yet, because because like you build this capacity, this muscle now through doing this, because like the companies still require the attention, right? So like you've diverted attention away. I've increased my hours per day, my reps per week in order to stay in tune with what we're doing. But that's building capacity. So like now I'm like, hey, well, what are we doing next? Right? Like what's the next thing that's going to come after that? There'll be a lull in between, I'm sure.
One of your 6 oxygen masks.
That's right. We got to get a little bit of a breather, but yeah, really, it's phenomenal. It's a great project, right? Super exciting. And really excited about the BTI stuff, like the actual opportunity to understand it now. And what's really cool is like, it's the understanding of the front end stuff. So it's getting the business, right? That's where the understanding is now. And then we're going to understand the delivery of the business, so we're, the sales hat, like, and I'm not doing sales calls much, but like, the sales and marketing side of it, like we're starting to get a handle on, well, what we think is a handle on it. Maybe we're wrong again, right? But we're starting to get an understanding of that a little bit. And then if we can get that consistent person to talk to, that lead coming through the door, and learning how to close them and learning how to provide the best services, and then delivery, like, so that's super exciting right now. And we got a couple of years of that heading in front of us. So, other than that, I don't know. I don't, it's really what's occupying most of my thought right now, right? Those couple of things. Yeah.
Well, to be honest, I'm just thankful, and I'm kind of full of gratitude around. We didn't push, and like we had mentioned this a few times, but like we wanted to make sure we found a time to have this conversation, that it wasn't the 11th thing on your plate.
Yeah.
It's like a time that worked, and I'm glad that it finally came to be, because I really enjoyed the catch up / conversation.
Yeah, it's great. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe that the three of us have always had a great connection, and feed off of each other. Just, I don't know how else to describe it, right? I'm excited when I'm hanging around with you guys, right? So it's great. So
and it goes both ways. I mean, seeing what you're doing and what you've done over the years, it's like, it's a little fire and a little spark for me as well. Like, and when you mention some of the community impact stuff and kind of those conversations we have offline, it's like, you working with Warren Rustan and folks like that, like, and that level of impact. I'm interested, I want to scratch that itch too.
It's fun, right? It's fun. And like, not everything is for everybody, right? And you have to kind of decide where you want to land. And like, I'm not I don't know how to describe this, right? Like, I'm not lobbying and building this big thing and trying to change global politics. And, that's not me, right? That's okay, right? Because I can contribute and grow and influence things that are within my control, my 3 feet, right? And make the day better for the people around that. And people can have a little more fun and maybe progress themselves along a little bit, right? So that's been more my circle of influence versus,
Yeah.
and some people are really great at these great big things, right? And I think you just have to decide what not everything is for everybody, and you got to make a decision and a choice on
Yeah.
what it is, what drives you. What do you want to do? What do you want to achieve? And then go for it, right? It's not. I think that one of the misconceptions is that as you become successful, you become greedy, right? And I think that there's a real misconception in the world around that,
Yeah.
because there is some of that, right?
Yeah.
Right. But the same as some without are abusive to the system. They're not all abusive to the system, and we're not all greedy, right? So there's we all get labeled with the same labels because of the minor few, right? So
Yeah.
like, I think all you can do is live your life for how you want to live it and do the things that you want to do, and, enjoy it, right? There's
Yeah.
just, it's
I-
so short. Like, just, you got to really enjoy it. And like, I'm overwhelmed. Overwhelmed's not the right word, but I get like, oh, how am I going to get all this stuff done? And how am I going to move this forward? And how am I going to, and this person's doing this and like, flush that out the door. You don't need, that stuff, those thoughts, if you can, I sleep like a baby at night because I've learned to turn those dotes off, right? Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, you learn to turn that down. Now, I wake up at 3 a.m. sweating, worrying about something that doesn't matter, right?
Mhm.
Like that. Everybody, if you're going to do anything, you have those moments, right?
Yeah.
But more than not, I don't. And I
Yeah.
think that that's the trick to making all this work. It's not about being greedy. It's not about doing all these things. It's just living how you want to live. And this is how I want to live. And I'm
Mhm.
really, really fortunate to get to do it. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get to do it is the key word. I get to
I
do
get
it.
to do it. I get to do this.
Yeah.
I get to come to work every day. I
Yeah.
get to work extra hours. Right.
Yeah.
It's what I want to do. And, I had a lot of friends over the years not understand that. And, we're still friends, but maybe we don't hang out all the time, and that's absolutely cool, right?
Yeah.
Because I have different interests and they have different interests,
Yeah.
and I love them, think they're fantastic, but we're different today, right? And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a big part of the journey. It really circles back to the whole, like, the people you hang out with, like, just to show what's possible. Yeah, for sure.
We have a mutual friend in Joel Hunter,
Yep,
and
Joel.
he we were having a bad couple of weeks or something like that years ago now, but it was right around the time I think Syria was maybe being attacked in the news at that moment. And when we started the call, he said something along the lines of, um, this many civilian places were bombed and this many casualties, and he just got really kind of detailed, in a little too detailed. And then he paused and he goes, "So how's your day going?" And like it's just like Control Alt
At the
Delete.
stage, man.
Yeah, Control Alt Delete on the
Yeah.
it's just this perspective thing, and like just getting caught in those repetitive kind of negative spaces is like, it's just not helpful. And it's a choice. It's 100% a choice.
Yeah, we're solving high quality problems.
That's
There's
right,
much
man.
worse
And
problems
these
than
are
that.
the highest quality. As you
Yeah.
guys know, I'm part of it's mostly national, but we have one international guy, an EO forum. We call ourselves 86.4. So, 8,000, 86,400 seconds in a day. How are you? It's a Warren Rustan spin, right? What are you doing to get the most out of that in your time, right? And we meet for one retreat a year, wherever. and we meet once a month for 2 hours. And every month we have a little process that we go through. And one of the things that we do is a thought-provoking question every week. And one person, proposes this thought-provoking question. And the question was around, our theme this year is noise versus signal. How are you spending more time on signal versus noise? And because the noise drives you crazy, right? And the signal is really where you get the results and the joy from it, right? So mountain biking doesn't make my business better, but it makes me better. So that's on signal, right? You see what I mean? Like, so it's thinking differently about that. And one of them is, when you're thinking about noise in your head or noise and distraction, like what is and I don't remember the exact framing of the question, but it was along those lines. And like, you immediately go to, spending too much time on social media or watching sports or, sitting on a bar drinking or whatever it is that the distraction is, right? But like, if you really peel it back and think one more level out, right? What is it, right? In my brain walks around and tells me all the things that other people should be doing that they're not. And that is the biggest noise that I have in my head. This person should be doing that for me, or this person should be doing that. And that's why I'm anti-shoulds right now, right? Because, because you got to turn that off, right? So that is the biggest thing that I can do internally right now is work to shut that noise. Because who am I to even assume what this person should be doing, right? Makes sense.
Interesting.
But
this noise versus signal thing, is there is there a rabbit hole I can go down on this? Like, this sounds amazing.
No, I don't know.
Get Ivey to write the thought model.
I don't know really where it popped out. So if you go back to Kevin O'Leary did a podcast, right? The dragon guy, right? Kevin O'Leary from Canada did a podcast, and he talked about noise versus signal, of how Steve Jobs had one of the highest noise versus signal rates, same as like an Elon Musk would, right? Where they're able, and like your family's noise, if you're looking at 100% business, right? I don't look at it that way. My family's not noise. My family is signal to me. My mountain bike, my road bike, you guys, this is signal to me. But if I was really, really just business only, this would all be noise, right? So he described them as their noise to signal ratio of being this super high space for them, right? In that context, right? So
interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But I can't remember who the podcast was with.
I'm sure it's Googleable. We can find it.
Oh yeah,
I'm sure you can find it. Yeah. Well, actually, I think it was Diary of a CEO. That guy's guy's a machine producing stuff, right? But it was really it was an interesting block of that podcast. It was good. It was good. Yeah. But that's where I believe that's where I first kind of heard about it, right? So I just, we adapted that to how we look at it, and that's where 6 oxygen masks in the next 12 months comes.
Yeah, nice.
Right? Yep. Because to me, that will drive the signal of the business.
Yeah.
I have a whole bunch of different signals going, right? As you can appreciate, right? Yep.
It's awesome.
Great.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Anything else you want to share? Where you want people to? I mean, you're deep into the BTI world, but where should people find you? Anything else to share?
Yeah, no. The whatever the theme of today was is just to get a good conversation with you guys, and I think I'm appreciative of you inviting me in to do that, and this has been a lot of fun, and hopefully there's a nugget in here for somebody somewhere, and somebody can get a little takeaway out of it. I at the end of it, like you just got to enjoy, right? You just got to have fun, right? Notes, right? Whatever it is, but you just got to have fun. You just got to really enjoy what you're doing. I think there's a lot of talk about, you got to find your passion and do your passion. You're not going to work like, you just got to like it, right? I don't love payroll. Right. I don't love payroll. I think it's important. I think it's a worthy business to be in. I think that it's important to get it right and to do it really well. And I think that you can build around that. And that's what we're trying to do. That's what we're not trying to do. That's what we are doing. But I love business. The payroll is a vehicle. It's the car.
Yeah.
You know, the highway I'm on is business, right? It's building. And then if you really take it away from that, it's building. So I want to build things, right? And I think that if I can continuously be building something and driving, you know, and creating, you know, being creative, then I'm a happy guy, right? So lucky me to get to live a life like this. Like it really is. Like, and I mean that. Like that's you know, none of this stuff, as you guys know, you know, what does Howard Schultz say about Starbucks? You know, the overnight success that took 20 years, right? Like that's a real thing. You know, I've been working my entire life, you know, because we worked when we were kids, right? Like not terrible or anything, but we did. We worked. We were exposed to industry.
I grew up at a dairy farm, so it's
right.
Just,
you know,
we normalized child labor.
we were like, you know, we were exposed to things. It was fantastic, right? You know, like I said it earlier, like anything really good is on the other side of hard work, right? And whatever that hard work is, like it doesn't need to be, you know, anything but you're learning something, you're creative, you're solving a problem, you're thinking about something, you know, you're just stretching yourself outside of what you normally would do. And man, like it's amazing what can happen on the other side, right? So that's it. That's all I got.
That's great. Well, let's call it then. Like I can't wait to meet up in person again.
Yeah, me
rural
too.
New Brunswick and rural Nova Scotia need to get closer together.
Yeah.
And just by chance, the pen that I grabbed that I haven't seen in forever is the one from Whistler. That's hilarious.
There you go. They have November in Toronto. They're doing another round of it this year.
Oh, that was the best.
That was a great conference.
You've ever been to.
Conference. Yeah. So
really,
but I would love to get a group together to pick a conference somewheres in the fall and to go together, because I think the learning is multiplied. The trick is there has to be an adventurous component to it as well. You know, snowboarding or mountain biking or hiking, whatever. I don't care. Not everybody has to do it, but you know, I'd like to see some form of an adventurous piece tied to it. And you know, I would love to do that and would work with whoever wants to do it to put something together. Right. So
sold. It's a date.
Awesome. Cool, guys.
All right. We'll call it to an end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
This episode of Built to Last is brought to you by Iron House Pro, your behind-the-scenes partner in building organizations designed to thrive. We specialize in solving the big challenges, the small annoyances, and everything in between. So while you're out there dreaming big, we're here making sure your systems, processes, and people are ready for tomorrow. Iron House Pro, driven to create lasting organizations. Learn more at ironhousepro.com.